September 12th, 1958, 11:47 p.m. The air in Harlem was thick, heavy with the scent of rain and cheap perfume. Inside Lennox Lounge, the smoke curled towards the ceiling in lazy blue rings. Laughter clashed with the wail of a saxophone. And in the corner, at his table, sat Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson, the king, unmoving, a statue in a sharp gray suit. But across the room, a storm was brewing. In the shadow of the bar, Big Sam's hand was shaking, a violent, uncontrollable tremor as his fingers, slick with sweat, finally wrapped around the cold, hard pistol grip in his pocket. $50,000. That number hammered in his skull, over and over. That was the price, the blood money the 5 families in New York had put on his brother's head, on Bumpy's head. And Samuel Big Sam Foster, Bumpy's shadow for 5 long years, the man who had taken bullets for him, who Bumpy had called family. He had taken the contract. He had sold his soul. The plan was so simple it was cruel. Walk into the lounge, just like any other Friday night. Wait for the moment. One single shot to the back of the head, quick, clean, and then vanish into the waiting night, into a new life, a life where his little girl could breathe. Sam took a deep, ragged breath. The bourbon in his gut felt like acid. He walked. His feet were blocks of lead. Each step on the sticky floor was a thunderclap in his ears. There he was, Bumpy, leaning forward, talking to his city councilman, his back a perfect, unforgivable target. This was it, the point of no return. Sam's hand slipped from his pocket. The gun felt heavier than ever. He raised it. The world narrowed to the sight at the end of the barrel, to the neat part in Bumpy's hair. His finger tightened on the trigger. He squeezed. Click. The sound was tiny, a dry, pathetic snap, but in that room, it was louder than any gunshot. The saxophone screeched to a halt. Glasses stopped clinking. 300 people froze, their heads turning as one. All eyes locked on Big Sam, standing there, a statue of shame with a useless piece of metal in his hand. And then, Bumpy moved. Not a jump, not a flinch. He simply finished his thought to the city councilman. He took a slow, deliberate sip of his cognac. He placed the glass down with a gentle tap. And then, he turned. He turned so slowly, the world seemed to hold his breath. His eyes, those dark, knowing eyes, found Sam's. They weren't filled with anger, not with hate. They held something far worse, a deep, profound disappointment. And Bumpy spoke. His voice was low, calm, and it cut through the silence like a blade. I've been counting on you. 5 words that shattered Big Sam's world. Because in that instant, Sam understood. The chilling, impossible truth washed over him, icy and final. Bumpy knew. He had always known.
What no one in that stunned crowd could have guessed, what the official histories of New York's underworld would never, ever record, is that Bumpy Johnson had known about the assassination plot for 3 entire weeks, 21 days. And what he orchestrated in those 21 days, it wasn't just a desperate act of survival. It was a masterpiece of psychological warfare, a lesson carved not in stone, but in fear and reputation. It broke the Italian mob's will, and it cemented a legend that would protect Harlem for a generation. To truly grasp the earthquake of that moment at Lennox's Lounge, you must understand the man at its center. In 1958, Ellsworth Bumpy Johnson was not some common hoodlum. He was not a mere gangster. He was something unique, an institution, Harlem's guardian, the living wall between a vibrant, struggling community and the pack of wolves that endlessly circled it, salivating. Harlem was under siege. The Italian Mafia, the powerful, ruthless 5 families, had coveted the neighborhood's numbers racket for years. This was the lottery of the poor.
nickels and dimes bet by maids and porters and factory workers that added up to mountains of cash every single day. And the families wanted every single penny. It was a gold mine running through the heart of Black America, and they believed it was theirs for the taking. But there was an immovable object in their path: Bumpy Johnson. Bumpy had built something the Lucianos and the Gambinos could never comprehend, an empire not sustained by fear alone, but by fierce, unbreakable loyalty. When a family was evicted, Bumpy paid the back rent. When the police shook down a black-owned bar or restaurant, Bumpy made a call, and the shaking stopped. When the Italian enforcers, with their slicked-back hair and cold eyes, tried to muscle into a local policy bank, Bumpy's men met them, and the Italians went back to Brooklyn in ambulances. The families tried everything. They sent their best, most vicious button men. Bumpy sent them home in pieces. They tried to negotiate, to offer a partnership. Bumpy laughed in their faces and told them Harlem was not for sale. They tried bribing politicians and judges, but Bumpy's connections, woven through the fabric of the neighborhood he loved, ran deeper and were paid for with respect, not just cash. By the summer of 1958, the bosses were fuming. They were desperate, and desperate men, they make fatal decisions. In a smoky back room in Lower Manhattan, Frank Costello, a man whose word could start wars, called the minds of a meeting. Representatives from all 5 families sat around the table, the air thick with cigar smoke and frustration. "We've tried force," Costello said, his voice a dry rasp. "We've tried money. We've tried politics. None of it works. This Johnson, he's a ghost. He's untouchable." Carlo Gambino, a serpentine thinker, slowly lit a cigar. "So what do you suggest, Frank? We walk away?" Costello leaned forward, his eyes glinting in the dim light. "We make him touchable. We find the one person he trusts completely, the one person who stands in the shadow no one looks at, and we turn them. We flip that shadow against him." And that's when the name was spoken. Big Sam Foster. Samuel Foster had been Bumpy's right hand since 1953. 6'4", 260 pounds of quiet, imposing loyalty. He'd intercepted bullets meant for Bumpy twice. He'd been the lone mourner with Bumpy at his mother's graveside. He'd stood shoulder to shoulder with him through the bloody wars with Dutch Schultz's remnants, through midnight police raids, through every crisis. If any man could get close enough, it was Big Sam, the one man Bumpy would never suspect. The families dispatched their most subtle weapon, Tony the Collector. Tony didn't break knees, he broke wills. He found the crack in a man's armor, and he poured poison through it. 3 weeks before the fateful click, August 20th, 1958. Big Sam was leaving his cramped apartment on 132nd Street, the weight of the world on his broad shoulders. A sleek black Cadillac glided to the curb. The window whispered down. Tony Marone sat in the back, smiling a dentist's smile. "Sam, Big Sam, right? I've heard a lot about you." Sam's hand instinctively drifted toward the .45 at his waistband. "Who's asking?" "A friend," Tony purred. "Someone who wants to make you a very, very wealthy man." He gestured to the empty seat beside him. 5 minutes. Just hear me out. If you don't like the melody, you walk away. No hard feelings, no consequences." Sam should have walked. He knew he should have, but curiosity and a gnawing, desperate fear is a powerful trap. He slid into the plush leather interior. Tony didn't waste a second. "You're a smart man, Sam, a practical man. You know how this world works. Your loyalty to Bumpy, it's admirable, truly. But loyalty," he sighed, "doesn't pay the hospital bills, does it?"
Sam's entire body went rigid. His jaw clenched so tight his teeth ached. His daughter, his beautiful, fragile little Keisha, 6 months she'd been fighting tuberculosis in a charity ward. 6 months of watching her struggle for every breath. The treatments were a financial black hole. Bumpy had given him $2,000, a king's ransom to most, but it was a drop in an ocean of debt. Tony saw the crack. He opened a briefcase on the seat. Neat, beautiful bricks of $100 bills gleamed under the car's dome light. $50,000, Tony said softly, as if describing a religious vision. Enough to pay every bill, twice over. Enough to move your family to Arizona, somewhere dry, somewhere clean, where your little girl can heal. A real house, a real future. For what? Sam whispered, the words scraping his throat. Tony's friendly smile vanished, replaced by the cold, flat gaze of a predator. Then your daughter dies slowly in that charity ward, a sad statistics. And you keep playing Bodyguard. You'll watch your back every single day, waiting for the bullet with your name on it. Because that's how this ends for guys like us, Sam. In a gutter. The only question, the only real choice you have is whether you die poor or you die rich. Sam stumbled out of the Cadillac. He said nothing, but the briefcase, the beautiful, terrible briefcase, remained on the seat, an open invitation. That night, Sam didn't sleep. He sat by his daughter's makeshift bed, listening to her ragged, painful breathing. He saw the money. He saw the gun. He saw Bumpy's face, the face of his brother. 3 days later, broken and hollow, he made the call. "I'm in," he said into the phone, his voice dead. "But I want the money up front. Half now, half after." "Done," Tony's triumphant voice crackled back. "Welcome to the winning side, Sam." But what Big Sam could never have imagined, what Tony, the collector, with all his cunning failed to collect, was that the approach had been known before it even happened. Bumpy Johnson did not reign supreme by trusting blindly. He reigned by knowing, by understanding the deepest, darkest mathematics of human nature. Every man has a price, every man has a weakness, and every single one can be broken. Bumpy's intelligence network was Harlem itself. Bartenders who heard whiskers, shoeshine boys who watched streets, cab drivers who remembered faces, janitors who saw everything, a vast, silent army of the unnoticed. And one of these soldiers, a sharp-eyed parking attendant named Jerome, had seen the out-of-place Cadillac. He'd seen Sam get in. He'd memorized the plate. 2 hours later, Jerome stood nervously in Bumpy's quiet office above Small's Paradise. "Tony Marone's car, outside Big Sam's place this morning. Sam got in, stayed 5 minutes, looked heavy when he got out." Bumpy looked at the paper. Then his gaze lifted over the window, looking out over his kingdom. He was silent for a very long time. Finally, he opened a drawer, pulled out 5 $100 bills, and placed them in Jerome's hand. "You weren't here today, Jerome. You didn't see a thing." "Yes, sir, Mr. Johnson." Alone, Bumpy sat for 2 hours in the gathering darkness. Sam, 5 years, laughter shared, blood spilled, trust given and received. And now, the Italians were in his ear. The vultures had found the one crack in his fortress wall. The reaction was obvious. The reaction was simple. Have Sam disappear. Tonight. One call and the Hudson River would hold another secret. That's what Costello would do. That's what any boss would do. But Bumpy Johnson was not any boss. He saw further. He saw a teaching moment, a message that needed to be sent not just to Sam, but to the families, to Harlem, to history itself. He wouldn't kill Sam. He would break him. And in breaking him, he would forge a legend unbreakable. For the next 3 weeks, Bumpy watched. He saw the new tension in Sam's shoulders, the haunted look that never left his eyes, the way he jumped at sudden noises. He saw a good man being torn in two by an impossible choice, and Bumpy's plan crystallized. It was brutal. It was brilliant. It was perfect.
He called in a lifetime favor from an old genius gunsmith in Brooklyn, a man named Victor. "I need a gun that doesn't work, Victor." Victor blinked. "You want a broken piece?" "No," Bumpy said, his voice low and precise. "I want a gun that looks perfect, that feels perfect, that weighs exactly right. But when you pull the trigger, it goes click. Nothing more. Can you do it?" Victor could, and he did. In 72 hours, he delivered a modified .38 Special, a twin to Sam's service weapon in every way, except its soul was gone. It was a stage prop for a tragedy. The next move required the grace of a pickpocket and the timing of a heart surgeon. Bumpy needed to swap the guns. He sent Sam on a fool's errand to the Bronx on September 8th. A vital envelope. Don't come back without it. The moment Sam was gone, Bumpy and his most trusted lieutenant, Illinois Gordon, entered Sam's apartment. They found the real .38 right where Bumpy knew it would be, in a shoebox under the bed, wrapped in an oilcloth. In its place, they left Victor's beautiful, deadly fake. Now, Bumpy waited. He had to let the play unfold. He had to let Sam commit the ultimate betrayal. Because if he confronted Sam now, it was just a claim, a denial. The families would simply find another traitor. No, the lesson had to be absolute. It had to be public. It had to be unforgettable. Sam had to pull the trigger on a dead gun, and in doing so, execute his own honor in front of 300 witnesses. The message would be carved into the mind of every gangster in America. You cannot kill Bumpy Johnson. He is always, always 3 moves ahead. September 12th, 11:47 p.m. Lenox Lounge was a living thing, a roaring, sweating, joyous beast of sound and light. 300 souls packed together. The air vibrated with jazz and the clink of glasses and the buzz of deals and dreams. And at his throne in the corner, Bumpy held court. He discussed housing projects with politicians. He smiled, he sipped his Hennessy, and he waited. He was a chess master who had already checkmated his opponent, waiting for him to finally realize it. Big Sam arrived at 11:30. He drunk just enough to steady the earthquake in his nerves. The dummy gun, a leaden weight of betrayal, sat in his pocket. He took his position by the bar. His eyes never left Bumpy's back. The minutes ticked by, an eternity in hell. At 11:47, Sam moved. He walked through the crowd, a ghost among the living. His hand was inside his jacket, gripping the pistol grip. No one noticed. He was the bodyguard. His presence was normal, expected. 6 feet, 4, 2. He was behind Bumpy's chair. He could smell his cologne. He saw the familiar line of his suit jacket. He drew the gun. The bartender saw it. His eyes went wide, his mouth an O of silent warning. Sam aimed. The world dissolved into the sight picture. He pulled the trigger. Click. The sound was a universe of failure in a single dry snap. Silence. A breathtaking, vacuum-like silence swallowed the entire lounge. The band stopped. The laughter died mid-breath. Every single person, 300 heads, turned and stared at the unbelievable scene. Big Sam, the loyal protector, standing with a gun aimed at his boss's head. And Bumpy Johnson, utterly unflinching. He finished his sip of cognac. He placed the glass down with a calm, definitive clink, and then he turned. He looked at Sam, not with rage, not with fury, with a deep, soul-crushing sadness.
a father's disappointment in a beloved son. His voice, when it came, was quiet, a whisper that carried the farthest corner. "I've been counting on you." Those 5 words were a physical blow. Sam's knees buckled, the gun suddenly burning his hand, clattered to the floor. The truth was a guillotine. Bumpy had known. He'd known everything, the approach, the money, the plan, all of it, and he had let Sam walk into this room. He had let him aim. He had let him try to kill him. He had let Sam destroy himself in front of everyone he knew. "I'm sorry, Bumpy. God, I'm so sorry. My daughter." "I know about your daughter," Bumpy interrupted, his voice still terrifyingly soft. "Did you think I don't know about my own people's pain? Did you think I don't take care of what's mine?"
From his inside jacket, Bumpy pulled out a long, business-sized envelope. He dropped it on the table. It landed with a soft, final thud. Keisha's medical bills, every last one, paid in full as of this morning. There's also a check in there for your family, $5,000 for a fresh start somewhere else. Sam was sobbing now, great heaving sobs of shame and relief and utter devastation. "But why? Why didn't you just tell me?" "Because I needed to know," Bumpy said, and for the first time his voice hardened like steel cooling. "I needed to see the choice you would make. Their 50,000 or our 5 years. Their poison or our brotherhood." He paused, letting the awful truth hang in the air. "Now I know." Bumpy stood up. He was not a large man, but in that moment he seemed to fill the entire room. He was power personified. "You will leave Harlem tonight. You will take your family and you will disappear. I don't care where. But if I ever see your face again, if I ever even hear your name in this city again, there will be no second chance. Do you understand me?" Sam could only nod, tears streaming down his broken face. "And Sam," Bumpy added, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper meant only for the fallen man's ears, "when they ask you, when the Italians ask you what happened here tonight, you tell them the truth. You tell them Bumpy Johnson knew. You tell them he's always known. You tell them they can't buy what I have here. And you tell them if they ever try something like this again, I will not be so merciful." Sam Foster, a giant reduced to rubble, picked up his useless gun from the floor. He did not look at a single person as he shuffled out of Lenox Lounge, into the Harlem night, and out of history forever. He died years later, a quiet, broken man in Detroit, with the echo of that click in his dreams until his last day. When the door shut behind Sam, Bumpy turned. He faced the silent, stunned room. 300 people awaited his judgment. "Let me make something clear," he said, his voice now ringing with authority. "The Italians, they think we can buy us. They think our poverty is a price tag. They think our skin is a weakness. They think Harlem is for sale." He picked up his glass of cognac, holding it aloft like a torch. "They are wrong. Harlem is not for sale. It never was, it never will be. And anyone who comes into my home, who tries to buy my family, will learn the same lesson that was learned here tonight. We are not the ones who need protection from them. They need protection from us." He raised his glass higher, to Harlem and to a loyalty that money can never buy. A roar erupted. "To Harlem!" 300 voices shouted as one, 300 glasses lifted. The jazz band exploded back into sound, louder, prouder than before. The crisis was over. The legend was born. The story did not walk out of the lounge with Sam. It flew. It raced through the gutters and over the rooftops of the underworld. By dawn, every crew chief, every capo, every boss from Boston to Baltimore had heard the impossible tale. Bumpy Johnson had been tipped for weeks. He'd swapped the gun. He'd orchestrated the entire humiliating spectacle without firing a shot. The 5 families called their emergency meeting. Costello was livid, screaming about incompetence. But Carlo Gambino, the quiet strategist, simply stared at his hands. Finally, he spoke, and his words chilled the room. "We cannot beat this man," Gambino said, his voice flat with finality. "We have tried the fist, we have tried the dollar, we have tried the politician, we have tried to turn his very heart against him, and every single time he has already written the final page of our plan. So I will tell you what we do." He looked at each boss in turn. "We leave Harlem alone. We focus on Brooklyn, on Queens, on the Bronx. But Harlem belongs to Bumpy Johnson, and trying to take it from him is not a war. It is a suicide mission." It was an unprecedented surrender. The mighty 5 families, the rulers of organized crime in America, had officially retreated. They conceded a territory without a single shot being fired in battle, all because of one man's genius and one hollow click in a smoky room. Bumpy Johnson lived another decade after that night. He died in 1968, not from an assassin's bullet, but from a heart attack. Fittingly, he drew his last breath in that same Lenox lounge. The king died in his castle. But his lesson, the lesson of September 12, 1958, lived on. It became more than a story. It became a Harlem parable, passed from father to son, a lesson about the true nature of power. You see, Bumpy Johnson proved something that most people, then and now, completely miss. The most dangerous weapon in the world is not a gun. It is not a bag of money. It is not an army of soldiers. The most dangerous weapon is foresight. It is the cold, patient intelligence to see your enemies move before they even dream of making it. It is the ruthless creativity to turn their perfect plan into the stage for your own victory. It is playing chess while everyone else is still fighting over the checkers board. Big Sam took the mob's $50,000. He left New York with nothing but the clothes on his back and a lifetime of shame. And Bumpy Johnson, he sat back down to his corner table. He finished his cognac, the ice barely melted, and he went back to work, protecting his people, ruling his kingdom, being the untouchable, unforgettable king of Harlem. A king who earned his crown not with a trigger finger, but with a mind that could hear the future and change it with a single calculated click.